Right guys, how's it going? Welcome back. Well, today I've got something quite unique for you. Take a look at this. This is the Spartan EV. Let me be clear right from the start, this is not a lifestyle vehicle. This isn't simply an accessory in which you can go and get your iced latte from Costa. What you're looking at here, ladies and gents, is a tool. No, not me, the car. It's a go anywhere, haul anything, tough as nails 4x4. This is actually built for people who do work. Now there are two different types of Spartan. There's a 3-door short wheelbase or a long wheelbase 5-door. It's very basic and it's very tough, and that's kind of the point. This isn't trying to be cool, which ironically kind of makes it cool. Let me give you a bit of background then. The Spartan's built by a company called MW Motors, and they're a Czech company that specialise in practical electric vehicles. And whilst it might look brand new, it's actually not. You see, underneath it's based on something called the Force Motors Gurkha. No, I'd never heard of it either. Anyway, it's an Indian rugged off-roader that's been in service since 2008. I've been trying to get my head around this car, and I think the best way to think of it is not really a reboot, but more like a sequel that nobody asked for. Without wishing to spoil the rest of the review, my take on this is that it feels like an old Land Rover Defender that someone's converted to be an EV. Styling-wise, I think it works really well. I love this sort of thing. I love boxy off-roaders. Now, while it might look like a new Jimny, it's actually much bigger. It's sort of like a 3-door G-Wagon. If you look closely, there are a lot of G-Wagon design cues. For example, have a look at the exposed hinges. Have a look at the big clumsy indicators on the bonnet. Even the flared wheel arches are straight from a G-Wagon. So as a piece of design, I think it works really well. Something else I really like about the Spartan are the headlamps. It's got these nice LED lights. It does get a lot of attention, this car. I was driving through the village earlier, and I'm not exaggerating, but people were stopping and staring. Moving around the back, this quarter, for example, is, well, it's pure G-Wagon. It sort of looks like someone's combined the DNA of a G-Wagon, a Suzuki Jimny, and an Ineos Grenadier. And I do quite like that. If you take a look on the Spartan website, you can configure these till your heart's content. You can add ladders and roof racks. I mean, it'd be ideal for a roof tent. You can really do anything with them. Everything about this car is tough and rough and ready. You've got chunky steel bumpers, recovery points, and actual ground clearance over 200mm. And this being the 3-door version's compact enough to get through narrow tracks, but tall enough to clear whatever's underneath. So yeah, a Nissan Qashqai, this is not. The whole thing looks like it was built by somebody with a socket set and a bad attitude and a flannel shirt. That's exactly what you want. If you're in the market for this kind of vehicle, then you want something that can take a beating and simply shrug it off. However, that's not the full story. Come inside with me. Well, inside the Spartan 2, it's as basic as it gets. You've got to constantly remind yourself that you're in a rough, tough off-roader. This definitely isn't a Range Rover. If we were being complimentary, then I'd describe this interior as utilitarian. But if we were being honest, I'd describe it as bad. It honestly feels like I've made it, and I don't know how to do anything. In terms of interior quality, then think Dacia Sandero, one of the early ones at that, and one of the low-spec ones. That's what it's like. There's lots of very cheap, very scratchy plastic. I'm not trying to give this car too hard a time, but I've spent 2 or 3 days with it now, and the longer you spend with it, the worse it gets. There are exposed screws, there are sharp plastics, sharp edges, particularly around the gauge cluster here. It looks like it's been cut with a knife and fork. It's all very, very rough and ready. Listen to this, for example. I'm turning the climate from cold to hot. Like nothing's refined. I know that's the point. Just an observation. You've got to bear in mind this isn't designed for your school run, Mum, or for motorway cruising. It's a tough off-roader, and the interior reflects that. Having said all that, it is very practical. You've got rubber floors, which I imagine could be hosed out easily. All the buttons and switches are so chunky they could be operated whilst wearing gloves. And on top of that, there's plenty of space and storage. So as a work truck, I can see it working. I know I keep comparing this to an old Defender, but it is a bit more luxurious than an old Defender. For example, you get air conditioning, you get Apple CarPlay, albeit wired, and you get, what else? USB ports, things like that. So it is somewhat modern, but it isn't a G-Wagon or a new Defender. You don't get heated seats or a heated steering wheel or ventilated seats or massaging seats or any of that sort of stuff. Which I'll have you know is very important for me every morning as I go for a nice latte in my Range Rover. You get a proper old-fashioned manual handbrake, you can lock the front and rear diffs from inside the car, you get an automatic gear selector, which the build quality isn't great to be fair, and you can also change it from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive to 4-low. So it really does feel like you're in a 4-wheel drive from the 90s. In terms of visibility, then it's excellent. It's like being sat in a Popemobile. And also, these grab handles are everywhere. It's like being in an OAP shower. Under the bonnet then is this giant metal box. There's not an awful lot to show you really. If you're hoping to tinker with this on a Saturday on your driveway, then you're out of luck. What I will tell you though is that it's got a 57.4 kilowatt hour battery, which gives the Spartan 2 a range of about 150 miles, which might not sound great, because it isn't, but remember this car isn't built for motorway cruises. I think it's worth pointing out that the target audience for this car isn't you or I. It's government agencies, it's park rangers, it's people who need a chunky four-wheel drive car that's capable, but also something that's EV to bring down the company's carbon footprint. On the bright side, you can rapid charge this from 20% to 80% in about 35 minutes, which is exactly what we did before we filmed this. It just makes it nice and convenient. This is the sort of thing that you could charge while you're on your lunch. You simply plug it in here, at this charging port, through the front grille. Seamless. Anyway, enough waffle. Let's get this thing on the road. And maybe, if we can find somewhere, off-road too. Now in terms of what this is like to drive, then it's a bit of a mixed bag. There are several pros, but there are a lot of cons. On the plus side, because it's an EV, it's very quiet. There's no engine noise because it doesn't have one. So it's nice and silent. However, the ride is very rough. You feel all the bumps, you bounce all over the road. It handles like an old Defender. It feels like an old Defender. And it rolls in corners like, you guessed it, an old Defender. The steering feels very vague. There's an awful lot of body roll. The brakes are particularly vague. But like I said about pros and cons, they're all the negatives. On the bright side, you get loads of torque. Over 1,000 Newton meters to be precise. Obviously, because it's an EV, the power delivery is instant and seamless, which gives this car a surprising amount of nip. It does feel very nippy. There's no delay in the power delivery, it's just always there. There's also no reverse camera, which I could do with right about now. The rear visibility is blocked by your spare tyre, so backing up these narrow single track lanes is a bit of a guess. Why the man in the Royal Mail van couldn't just let us all through, I don't know. The Spartan's got 174 brake horsepower, which doesn't sound like an awful lot, but bear in mind, it isn't about the horsepower of this car. It's all about that torque. And 1,000 Newton meters is an awful lot. This car weighs just over 2 tons as well. Bit of wheel spinner. It does feel properly quick. It's a shame the brakes aren't better, because you do get a bit of a heart flutter when you need to instantly brake and nothing really happens. Before we continue, I just need to say a big thank you to today's video sponsor, Car Vertical. Now before you hand over any cash for a used car or motorbike, it's really important that you do a thorough vehicle history check, otherwise you just don't know what you're buying. A car might look okay on the face of it, but until you do a thorough vehicle history check, you really don't know what's lurking beneath. I've been using Car Vertical now for years, and every single car you can see on the forecourt, I've checked using Car Vertical. All you do is head over to carvertical.com and type in the reg or the VIN, and then it produces a very detailed report. So it tells you whether it's ever been stolen, written off, had a mileage rollback, or has outstanding finance on it. In addition to that, it shows you the MOT history, the ownership changes, the spec of the car, the average market value, and a whole lot more. It doesn't just work in the UK either, it works in 35 different countries. So before you complete your purchase of your car or motorcycle, make sure you do a thorough vehicle history check first using Car Vertical. If you use my promo code HIGHPEAK, that's HIGHPEAK all one word, HIGHPEAK, you'll save yourself 20% off each and every check that you do. Or alternatively, click the link below in the video description. Right, enough of that. The top speed of the Spartan 2 has been restricted to 90 miles an hour. Having said that, this isn't the kind of car that you're going to drive from Manchester to London, is it? It really isn't. In fact, this isn't a car you'd want to spend all day in at all. Like I say, the ride is tiresome. You get loads of wind noise because of its slab-sided windows. The seats aren't that comfortable or supportive. Overall, it's just a bit hard work, really. There's loads of rattles and bangs and crashes. Every day I've had this, I've been driving it around all day trying to get to grips with it, but I've been so happy to get back in my own car at the end of the day. That doesn't usually happen with test cars. Usually I'm quite happy to be in something brand new, something that isn't mine, something that's fun and interesting. Again, I can't really judge this as a car, or I shouldn't judge it as a car because it isn't one. The whole thing really feels quite mechanical. It's quite refreshing, I suppose, because this is a back to basics approach. You get manually locking front and rear diffs. There are no clever terrain response systems. It's all very old-fashioned and very simple. You basically just get grip and grunt. It's also worth pointing out that this will wade through water up to 700 millimeters deep, and it'll crawl up steep inclines and drop into ruts and keep going without blinking. And because it's electric, it does it all in near silence. The back cargo area is quite useful. It's completely flat, you can hose it out, and there are plenty of hooks so you can strap things down. You also get over a ton of payload capacity, which is genuinely impressive. And the other good thing about the Spartan is this will tow 3 tons. So again, some of the figures are quite impressive. There is one figure though that you won't be so impressed at, and that's the price. You see, the price of this very basic rough and ready work truck starts at, you won't believe this, you honestly won't believe this, it starts at just under £50,000. 50,000 Great British pounds, plus VAT. That's before any options. It's way too expensive, isn't it? When this was first dropped off, I try not to find out too much about these cars. I try and have an open mind. So I looked around it and thought, I wonder what that'll retail for. Maybe 20 grand, 25 grand? And at that point I thought, yeah, I could see people buying that. But at 50, not a chance. As I say though, this isn't a car that's designed for you or I. It's designed for companies, so maybe they'll buy them, I don't know. I can't think of anything else on the market like it, so maybe they've created their own little niche. 50 grand though. I mean, I'd rather buy a used Bentayga. Again, on the bright side though, because it's an EV, if you've got a home charging point, it will cost you pennies to run. And this will genuinely get you to the top of mountains. So I suppose that is quite impressive. It's a bit of a hard sell, isn't it, when it's so rough and ready. We're now on a road that's riddled in potholes, and I'm going to need to book in with my chiropractor. This does feel like the modern interpretation of an old Lada Niva. I think if it was badged as that, people would understand it more. I quite like the power, and I quite like the silence. Right, what we're going to do now then is try and take this off-road. We're going to go green laning. Hopefully try and test the Spartan's off-road prowess. So right now we're only in 2-wheel drive, so when things get a little bit tough, we're going to have to switch it to 4. Okay, this is, yeah, things are getting a bit challenging now. We've got decent tyres though, so that's good. Losing a little bit of grip here, but again, we're only in 2-wheel drive. I feel like I'm beached already. This isn't a good advert, is it? Okay, so we're in 2-wheel drive. Let's pop it into 4. Okay, 4-wheel. Oh yes, breezed it. This is quite good fun actually. You know, I'm such a hypocrite. By the end of this little green lane experience, I'll be thinking, yeah, buy one. Well, this is quite capable. Bear in mind, this might not look it on camera, but this is quite a challenge. It's loose dirt because it's been very, very warm recently. It's riddled with crevices. This is quite a good challenge for the old Spartan. So far, so good. In fact, I'll go further than that, it's really coming into its own. I wouldn't dream of doing this in most other cars, only perhaps an old Defender. It's quite a steep gradient this as well. Try and maintain my speed, keep my thumbs outside the steering wheel, that's literally all I know about off-roading. No idea where this road takes us. Just praying I don't have to back up. Well, I think it's safe to say this is proven to be quite capable. And there's just loads of torque, loads of power there. I'm barely touching the accelerator. This is genuinely quite impressive. Well, I'm quite enjoying this. Try not to get stuck. This is becoming less of a review and more of just a fun day out, isn't it? The views from up here are unbelievable. The good thing with this as well is you don't have to worry about ripping your sump off because there isn't one. I'm doing 11 miles an hour, by the way. Why is this so much fun? This is the thing with the Spartan though, and it's actually probably quite clever. If you need a vehicle to do this sort of thing with, but it also needs to be zero emissions, this is your only choice. So no, it isn't the last word in luxury. It isn't even the first word in luxury, to be fair, but it is seriously capable. And nothing's coming out of the exhaust pipe. It is completely Greenpeace approved. Supposing this is what the Spartan was designed for, to reach very inaccessible places. You know what, since I switched this to 4-wheel drive, it hasn't missed a beat. And the fact that you've only got 2 pedals and an electric motor, it's like a go-kart. It creeps along with minimal effort, and it just tackles everything really well. We're even giving it a good clean as well with these little hedges. I just don't want to veer off into a dry stone wall. In terms of my electric range, then this hasn't used too much. Of course, we've only been doing like 11 miles an hour, so it's not exactly taxing. Would I want to do 300 miles in this? Probably not. But having said that, I have enjoyed the last 5 miles immensely. On the other hand though, would I trust this if it were parked at the bottom of a hill to get me up to the top of the hill on a wintry morning? The answer is yes. Whilst it's very easy to criticise the Spartan for its shonky build quality and its laughable price tag, there is something about it. It's quite charming. I've had an awful lot of fun with this today, and it is seriously capable off-road. So I think really they've kind of carved out their own little niche. Also, I quite like to support the underdog, don't you? So I think that's about it, guys. Thank you once again for watching. Make sure you give the video a thumbs up. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe if you haven't done already. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and TikTok. I'll leave the links below. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.